Hi friends, and welcome back to the channel. If you're new here, hi, my name is Heather and you have landed at Lemon Tree Corner, where we make bags and project bags and purses and other crafty things like crochet. Welcome, welcome. And for all of you coming back, thank you for coming back. I really appreciate it when you spend your time with me, and let's see what we're working on this week. So this week in the studio, we are making the Swoon Ethel bag. So this is a really cute shoulder bag. It is 13 by 10 by 5. So very swoopy as you can tell. There's a slip pocket in the front there that's divided. The only thing this doesn't have is a zipper, and out of all the purses that I have in my product line, what I really need is a shoulder bag that has a zipper. So we are going to try adding in a recessed zipper into this bag. Is that true? Yeah. It's got a magnetic snap right now. So you can see that we've got a curved top. So what I would like to do is I would like to cut the lining piece into two pieces. We're going to have to add some space in there for our seam allowance, and then just do a recessed zipper panel in there. So we will work on that. I have 3 of these bags that I would like to make for the March craft fair. Got this super pretty pastel blue butterfly print that I am going to pair with this pretty print. We've got these 2 fabrics. I'm not sure which one I want to have on the outside. They're both very pretty. I'm probably going to have that one on the outside, but yeah, this one might be too light to be on the outside, but very pretty. And then we've got more of a tropical bag. So we've got this pretty print with some turtles in the middle. So we'll have some turtles on the inside of that one. And these are all fabrics that I've had sitting around for a while, so it's time to put them in bag form. We will also be working on our Christmas blanket, and I'm going to try making some Blondie bars again. We kind of run out of all of the Christmas sweets, and I have a sweet tooth, so we'll be making that as well. And while I was at Joann's getting yet another piece of that yellow gingham fabric, I found this cool book. So this is Life is Sweet. It's a coloring book, but it's got little sayings. So what I can focus on, it's got little uplifting things, grow your potential, like that. So it's just really fun. And it's the perfect size for my little board over here. So they seem like they are easier to color in, a little less time commitment, and then I get a cute saying with each of them as well. So I think as part of our inspirational daily work that we're going to be doing this year, or I'm going to be doing this year, I thought this would be a good one to do. So this is called Life is Sweet Coloring Book by Jane Maday, M-A-D-A-Y. If you're interested, so I picked this up at Joann's. I'm sure it's probably on Amazon as well, I would think. Yeah, so just cute coloring pages that don't seem super involved. And yeah, this is one of my favorite quotes from Rumi. You are not a drop in the ocean. You are the whole ocean in one drop. The entire ocean in a drop. So that's one of my favorite quotes. Looking forward to working on that, and I'll share that with you as we go as well. So if that sounds fun to you, go ahead and grab yourself a water or a cozy beverage, curl up, and let's start making some bags. 'Tis time. So like I usually do with a pattern I haven't made in a long time, we are going to start with just one. I'm not going to cut all the pieces just to figure out that I should have done something differently. So we're going to start with this beautiful blue pastel-y butterfly print. It's very pretty. So we're going to start with that one. And so I'm taking out the magnetic snap, which means I had to cut a second zipper for this, for the recessed zipper. I made it 14 inches. I'm kind of piecing together. Where'd the other piece go? I'm kind of piecing together from another bag that's a similar size that has a recessed zipper. And I'm going to use those measurements for this bag. It called for a 12-inch zipper. I'm going to do 14 just to be safe because, yeah, I'm not sure. And then we're going to have a tab on one end. We're going to veer this end, and we're going to have zipper panels, and we're going to sew it in. So in order to do that, that means that we need to increase the pattern piece for the lining. So it's the same pattern piece for the exterior and the lining. So what I did is I just picked a point that we can cut this. So when I cut the lining, I'm going to fold here. I'm going to add 1/4 of an inch onto this measurement, and then I'm going to cut this and add 1/4 of an inch on. So I hope that makes sense when we get to the lining fabric. But in the meantime, we're going to cut all the other pieces. So we've got the exterior, there's a slip pocket, there's the handles, there's a lining pocket. I don't think there's a lining pocket in the original, but I've added it in here, and I've also increased the handle size as we normally do. So we have a side panel and a bottom panel. And we also have bottom support, kind of like we did in that Gabrielle bag. So we got lots of pieces to cut out. Oh, and the slip pocket. So lots of pieces to cut out. I'm just going to do the standard that I normally do. I'm just going to do all the pieces for the outside in this. I'm going to do all the pieces for the inside in the lining fabric. Never the twain shall meet. And for the slip pocket on the outside, I'm going to use the lining fabric as the lining of that pocket. So lining, lining, lining. And we do have directional fabric here, so we've got to turn this over before we start cutting things. I've also got to think about the directional fabric for the side panels and the bottom. So let's see, can we get the side panels? Woohoo! We can just get the side panels out of that. That's great. Okay, so that's going to save us some fabric there. So I'm going to cut these out, and then I'll meet you back here once we're ready to cut the lining fabric and get all those pieces cut out. I'm trying to get a jump on things while I've got time. 3-day weekend is perfect for this. Okay, so we've got all of the pieces cut out and interfaced. So now we're going to need to cut out the foam. And let me pick out those pieces real quick before I start talking. You know, I was debating whether or not to talk about things last week, and it just comes down to fear, doesn't it? Like, I'm afraid to alienate my audience. I'm afraid to talk about these things, which I think is exactly the reason why I should be talking about them, because I know I'm not the only one out here feeling overwhelmed and scared and angry. You know, I think it's more important for me to speak my truth than it is, you know, and if somebody doesn't want to be here, then they don't want to be here. And, like, I don't want to be afraid of that. So that's kind of where I was at last week. And then just talking about, like, coping strategies for that. And then I was watching the My Embryonic Breakdown, the podcast they have on YouTube. I watch it all the time, and she's got lots of self-help experts and things like that that she brings on. And one of them was Mel Robbins, who I've I've read books by her before, but it's been a while. And she has a new book come out called Let Them. And I'll let her explain in her own words. But basically, it's kind of like the serenity prayer. Like, why am I wasting time on people who are just blustering and doing things, and I can't control what they do or say, and I need to be spending my time more on things that I can control, because I can't control the way other people are. I can't control what they do or don't do. I can control whether I allow myself to be hurt by them, and I can set boundaries. But as far as like the world goes, I can't control that. And if I'm just stuck in this place of being angry and not being able to do anything, then I'm not focused on what I can do. So I will let her explain that better in her own words, because she's going to do a better job of it than I am. But yeah, I was just like, that's exactly what I was trying to talk about last week, and then I couldn't figure out how to phrase it. So if you're interested in that, I highly recommend at least watching the podcast. Maybe we should get the book and talk about the book.
I'm thinking a lot right now about how overwhelming life feels for so many people. And for better or worse, I have always been a person that has felt the joy or suffering of people at a very deep level. There's no doubt in my mind that we are all connected. And in times where life is overwhelming, I think the opportunity that you have is to be a light in the dark. The let them theory is ultimately a mindset tool. And what it does is it helps you in a nanosecond to identify what's in your control and what's not in your control. And so if we back up just a little bit, this is ultimately a book about learning how to work with the fundamental laws of human behavior and human wiring. And what I have come to learn is that I had been working against it my entire life. Like people have told me forever to just let it go, just drop it. So I hate letting it go because it means I'm losing. Like I don't like to let it go because there's something in that that's implied that they won and I have to let it go and move on. And I don't want to do that. And there's something different about saying let them. Because what you're doing when you say let them, and you're going to start saying it anytime somebody pisses you off or stresses you out or you see hurts you or you see something in the news that really upsets you or you feel overwhelmed or stuck or your like boss is in a bad mood, you're going to say let them. And when you say let them, you're not allowing somebody to hurt you. You're actually taking a step back and you're recognizing what is happening. And you're acknowledging the power is not in trying to change what this person is doing. The power is saying let them and detaching from what that person is doing. And then you do the second step, which is let me. Let me remind myself that in any situation, I always have power. Because there are three things I can control. I can control what I'm going to think next. I can control what I do or I don't do. And oftentimes what I find is not reacting is what gives me more power. And I can control how I process my emotion.
Where our halfway point is. And then here's easy because we've stitched something right on the halfway point. But on this one, we're going to have to use our pattern piece again and make sure that that extra flap is folded over if you put both of the pattern pieces together. We don't want that messing up our measurement here. And just line those pieces up. And then what we're going to do is we are going to put the gusset together. My least favorite part of the entire process. We're going to sew it with the gusset side up, so I'm going to make sure my clips are there. And then we are going to line up the midway point and the top here. on both sides so that that top lines up together. And then we're basically just going to clip it all the way into the curve. And then when we sew it down, we're gonna go like this, and we're gonna just kind of ease it around the curve here. Okay, so this is gonna be at 1/2 inch, and then we're gonna trim it down. So let's go do that. Okay, so the trick with this is just to go nice and slow. We've got our stiletto to help kind of hold things down, stab things into place. And we do the 1/2 inch seam allowance because it helps with this foam moving around. So we just want to like really press down and make sure it's in place and hold everything together because things like to move around. The foam makes things very slippery on your machine here, and it tends to go like kind of like a car on a wet road. So you just gotta be careful. Okay, so we've got our curve here, and when we look at it from the inside, we just want a nice tight curve without any foldovers. So we just want to check that. It's pretty good. Now the second one is the challenging one because now you have to do the same thing over again, but you're going to have all of this in the way on this side. So that's the challenge. Okay, today we are making some sweet treats. Cinnamon roll Blondie bars from Trader Joe's. I've eaten all of the sweet treats from Christmas, and I want some more. We're just going to do our usual recessed zipper here, or not recessed, our usual zip pocket here, and install that like we do every other pocket. And that's our inside pocket. Now comes the new part, new to us part. We need to do the recessed zipper. So basically what we're going to do is we are going to attach these to either side. We are going to sew this on one side like this. We're going to have a tail. We're going to veer the zipper. So if you remember that whole veer the zipper thing that we have to do, actually the other way around, like that. So we are going to start off by veering our zipper and sewing that down. And we want these two pieces to be even. And then I'm going to refamiliarize myself with the method here. I am taking this from So Sweetness Baker Street pattern. It's a free pattern. I will link it below. The Baker Street bag is very similar to this. This just has a wider gusset and a more swoopy body. But it's a similar concept, except the Baker Street has the recessed zipper. So we are going to refamiliarize ourselves with that and how we do the zipper tab, because I think this is one of the ones where the zipper tab is like sewn in and surrounds the entire thing. So I need to rewatch that video and then we will come back. So this part is pretty easy. We're just going to be tacking this down like we usually do. And we're going to do the same thing. If it's easier for you to unzip your zipper, go ahead and unzip your zipper. Just, you know, make sure that if you don't have a stop at the bottom, just be careful, or you can stitch back and forth down there to make a stop. We can do that real quick. You just kind of make a little bar for yourself so that your zipper doesn't come off. Zipper tab doesn't come off. And then we're going to sew this one down on the other side, just starting at that mark again. Now the hardest part of this whole thing for me is getting this pressed correctly. I think that's the hardest part for me. So we're going to press these and I'll show you that whole thing. It's a little complicated. Now the nice part about this is that we're doing the zipper a little bit more easy than the Baker Street zipper. We are going to sew this raw edge into the seam. So we don't need to worry about that. We just have to worry about these raw edges on that edge. So what I like to do is I like to do this first. So the hardest part is getting both of these fabrics to match up. So if I press them at the same time like this, I find that that's a lot easier than trying to get them to line up later. So we will press these at the same rate. So it doesn't matter like if I sewed them correctly or not. We are just going to press them so that they match. And then we will do one side. Yeah, the hardest part I find is getting this little tab to stay under. That's the hardest part for me, is getting that to tuck under. So I find if I press it first before the step, I know what I'm aiming for. Okay, and then we're trying to get the other one exactly lined up with that. So this is where I get a little bit off, is these kind of angle a little bit and then they don't quite match up perfectly. Now this is the interior, so I should have pressed that side first. So it's okay if it's a little bit underneath the other one, but shouldn't be too far. So I'm more concerned with how these edges look than the other bit. And since we pre-pressed them, it's a little bit easier for them to get that shape. Okay, and then we're just going to go through the rest and press that. And clips help here too if you're having trouble holding this. See how this is, it's bowing out. That's exactly what we don't want. These are both bowing out. So I'm going to have to redo those. Nice. Okay, so we're going to top stitch all of these three edges. This one again is going to be sewn into our lining, so we don't have to worry about that. So here we have our one panel, and then we're basically just going to do the same thing on the other side. The extra time you take with this step, well, the better. And speaking of bag patterns I haven't made for a long time, this Baker Street bag is one. It's a very beginner friendly one. So if you've done coin purses and things like that before but want to try a bag like this, like a structured bag with foam, this is a really good one to try. So I will link the Sew Sweetness pattern below as well, because that's a free pattern. And yeah, maybe we should do that for the fall, because that's another good shoulder bag pattern. Okay, our blondies are ready. They look very tasty. Let's give them a try. Got some pieces on the bottom here. I cooked them way longer than I said to cook them, but I think that worked out good. Cinnamon sugar. The icing isn't too sweet either. I think it's really good. Very reminiscent of cinnamon roll. My husband has a gig tonight, so I will enjoy these with some tea while watching some Miss Marple. So this is a pretty typical makeup, and you'll see that just by taking that extra little bit of time and care that we have lined these up as closely as we can. So now we're going to make the tab to pretty up the end of our zipper. So we're going to press these in 1/4 of an inch. What we're going to do is we're going to do our normal zipper tab kind of thing, but we have to press these other sides in because we don't want any raw edges there. So basically you're just going to be encasing all the raw edges. So we are just going to sew this down, and then we've got our recessed zipper panel all ready to sew into our lining. But we're going to sew this in now, and we just want to find the midway points so that we're sewing this into the middle of each. If you don't want to mark, what you can do is you can do a little cut like that. Is another good way to make your mark, because then you've got a little cut there. And we're going to find the center of these panels as well. And I sewed it in the wrong way. Okay, but we can see with the pattern piece if we did it correctly, and then we can redo the whole thing. Oh, I tend to do that a lot. Okay, so this pattern piece is pretty much right on. Very cool. Okay, so I'm going to pull this out. We're going to re-sew this. Oh, I always do that with the recessed zipper panel. So I'm going to tear this out. Okay, so you can see it just gives the bag a really nice, elegant feel. So I'm going to assemble the rest of the bag at this point. You've already seen everything else. So we're just going to sew the other one in the same way. What you can do at this point, if you would like, is you can open up the zipper. Otherwise, you can just keep it like it is. So I'm going to sew this in. We're going to assemble the whole bag. We're going to do the gusset on the lining. The only thing we are going to do is leave a hole in the lining gusset. That's the only thing that's different. And what I like about swoon patterns, and what I don't think of very often, is to leave the opening, instead of at the bottom where it's totally going to be visible, to leave the opening on the side. So that's something I don't think about a lot. So she's going to have us start at 3/4 of an inch, and actually start at 1/2 inch and go to 3/4 of an inch as we go around. So I will meet you back here when we are done. And she's done, and she's a beauty. I put my label here across the pocket. I don't think that's a good idea because there's obviously a dip there. So I don't know where I should put my label. Maybe put it on the back, but then it's on the back, so I'm not sure. Anyway, our recessed zipper worked out great. It totally covers the area, but you can get in here and open it up, which is great. And the other pocket is far enough down where it's not in the way of the recessed zipper, even with the zipper tab all the way down. You can see the other zipper is still accessible, so that's good. Our hole on the side works very nicely. I don't know that it's worth going through all that. I like the handles. I like the size of the handle opening. I did alter that. The handles were 20 inches. I increased them to 28 inches just to have more of that drop. But very, very pretty. I will catch you back here and we will hopefully get all 3 bags done and then see where we're at. Okay, I basically used the wrong one to calculate, but this took me 6.08 hours, which isn't bad. So that's pretty average for me for these kinds of constructed bags. So here we have our finished bag. I decided to put the label kind of off-center down here, so I think that's going to be good. Hi friends, so thank you for joining me this week. Let's take a look at our finished bags. It's been a long weekend, so I was able to finish all 3 of them. I think they're very classy. I love the little swoop. Very nice. I love this fabric. It's very nice. Even matched my nails to it. We've got the darker one, which worked out nice. It's kind of like a Hawaiian flower print. I made another bag for myself in this fabric, and I really love it. So it's a nice darker one. And then we've got a nice springy one. So that's very pretty with all the flowers. I used a pink top stitching. I wasn't sure if I was going to like that or not, but it blends in very well. I almost went with the dark gray, but I went with the pink instead. And then the inside of that one is very pretty as well. And I was able to get all of that accomplished because it is a 3-day weekend here in the States. So very excited to get all 3 of those done and still have time to crochet and watch some movies today. So that's nice. And yeah, gonna get started on the coin purses next week. And since they're already cut and ready to go, except for the zipper tabs, which I forgot to cut, I think we're gonna focus on picking out the fabrics and the patterns for the project bags. Because I've got a ton of fabric, I can't make all of them, but it would be nice to just be able to lay everything out and decide what's the big bag, what's the small bag, how many of each bag size I'm making, and that kind of thing, and which fabrics would lend themselves to the larger or the smaller bags. So yeah, would like to get all of that done because after the coin purses, the only thing we have to do for the March craft fair is the sachets, and I'm not necessarily going to want to fill those and have the lavender in the sachets for that early because right now it is January 20th, so the fair isn't until March 15th. So I'm probably going to be filling, I can sew them together and pink the edges and everything. I just wouldn't want to fill them until the week before the craft fair. So maybe we just sew them together and knock that out and get that ready to go. We still have to go to the other store to look for Hawaiian fabric. So since we're so far ahead at this point, maybe we will do that. And I wanted to give you an update on the fires. The LA fires are still going on. We've got the Palisades fire, which is 59% contained, and the Eaton fire is 87% contained. So they're still battling those. We are praying for rain. Maybe we will get some rain next weekend, which would help. But yeah, they're just continuing to battle. So anything you can do, you can donate to the LA Fire Department Association. We've got different groups that are cooking food and bringing it out to the first responders. We've got donations, drives for food and clothing and toiletries and things like that. I mean, these people lost everything. So kids' toys, diapers, formula. So if you have a local group that is putting together donations that you can donate to, we would all really appreciate it. I am safely out of the fire zone, but fires can crop up anywhere. This has been a super dry year for us, and we have not gotten any rain in the fall. So we are just praying for rain at this point to help us put out these fires and praying for no more Santa Ana winds. So thank you all for your continued prayers and support, and whatever you can do to help out would be greatly appreciated. So I will see you back here next week, same bat time, same bat channel, and I hope you have a wonderful week ahead. I love you. Bye.
Beneath the starlit sky, our love's secret line, like leaves we soar so high. Beneath the moonlight, soft touch your hand in mine, gets me every time. Lost in the city lights, our love's electric, right? You make me feel